Good afternoon and welcome to Relationship Saturday. You with your host John Smith again. And as usual, this is the Saturday episode where we talk about relationships, specifically that important one with you and your spouse, how to build a great relationship, how to build a relationship that lasts. A wedding is a moment, and it's an event. It's yet and tomorrow it's over. You've spent loads of money, loads of time planning, loads of effort. In fact, many times people get to the actual wedding event and they are worn out just from all the planning, all the stress, and putting it all together. I was one of those. And if you look at my wedding photograph of me walking down the aisle, you just see I'm ashen. I was just worn out. We were part of a building project at that point in time, and I was trying to organize everything, and nothing was going to plan. And all I wanted to do was marry my beautiful bride and float away into the sunset. And it just didn't happen like that. Everything seemed to be a challenge up until the reception. I mean, how's this? How's this? I'm planning the wedding, and I walk into the into the reception, and as I walk in, I realize the one thing I'd forgotten: music. Everybody's sitting at the tables, twiddling their thumbs, looking at each other, and it's just quiet. It's just absolutely quiet. No music. I mean, can you believe there was no music? But we were working so hard on a building project, and it seemed like everybody was busy. We were part of a big church, and everybody was busy with the building project, and nobody was there to help me, just nobody. And so I got on with this whole thing by myself. And yeah, so crashed and burned a little bit on that one. And we cut the cake, gave our speeches, and I said, I'm out of here. It was disaster. But I'm married, and the thing about it is, Michelle and I have been married now nearly 40 years. So, you know, the outcome is better than the event. So the event can be stressful. It can be, it can really wear you out just trying to get that day organized. And yet we've got a lifetime to live. We've got the relationship itself has to grow and develop and be nurtured and be built, like a bridge, as I did in one episode. It's not just a little pathway you're making. You're building something solid that's going to last for years and has a tremendous impact on the world around you, on your children, your grandchildren, friends, neighbors, family. It just has ramifications of security and confidence, and just that sense of stability, endurance that people can count on. And that's the important thing. People, relationships, I think we've over the years, it's sort of eroded. Hollywood has had a lot to do with this. It's easy to move around. It's easy to give up. It's too hard to deal with anything complex. It's just, we don't want to. We're too stressed to deal with relationships, and yet relationships are that important, vibrant fabric part of society. It's critical, and your relationship is critical. It brings something to your life as you work on those principles of a great marriage and great relationship with your spouse. So today we are talking about your reaction, your response, as the for the episode today. Your reaction, your response. And I, over the years, I've noticed, I mean, both in our marriage and in others, I've seen other people and others coming into marriage specifically. They don't know how to measure that, the reaction response. And our reaction to a situation literally has the power to change the situation itself. Have you noticed how, and you've done it probably, and I've done it. I mean, there's some people that are just so cool, calm, and collected, but they've developed that somewhere. I'm like a very passionate person, and I've had to learn to control that. But it's so easy to react, and there's many reasons for that. That when the stimulus is there, when something happens that you don't like, that touches you in an area that you don't like, then suddenly bow, it's like open-ended. And it can go, the reaction can be one of two things. It can be fight or flight. So there can be just opposition, a total, flammable situation where there's an explosion of reaction like that, or there can be this flight kind of reaction where there's this withdrawal, a silence, a manipulation by silence. So it can be, aggressive in the face, or silence, just, shutting down and no communication. And that's why, to me, is to build a better relationship, to build for Relationship Saturday, it's all about communication. You've got to keep working on keeping those communication lines open. So your reaction to a situation has the power to change that situation yourself. So how you choose when the stimulus comes, what you're going to do. Should you react or should you respond? And you say, is there a difference? Well, you see, your problem isn't the problem. Your reaction is the problem. The problem is, people are always, there's always going to be situations, bearing in mind that just as stressed as you are, your spouse is, or another relationship is. They are stressed. They are going through something that you may not know about. If it's at work, if you're working within the context of a work relationship, you don't know what's going on at home. You don't know what they're dealing with. I'm always amazed is how quickly we make our judgment of how we're going to react to a person based upon how we feel in that moment. We have no consideration of what that person is going through. We don't take time to understand what that person is going through. And you go, well, we don't have time for that. You have to have time for it, because people are what make things work. People make nations work, make organizations work, make enterprises work, make businesses work, make ministries work, make families work. It's people. You cannot be cold calculated in just, step one, step two, step three, because you're not either. And you and I are not cold, efficient, step A to Z kind of people. We all have some kind of emotional mix in that we have to build relationship. So if you're totally cold, you're not building relationship, or you're building relationship and you're trying to force the thing to happen. People are people. They're going through things, so they tend to react to situations, but that doesn't mean you have to. Between stimulus and response, there's a time lapse. So from the time something triggers, or they trigger you, you can decide at that point in time, what are you going to do? You can be the kind of person, and we'll get to that now, that you just react, or you can have a space. You can set a space, a time lapse, where you choose how you're going to respond. And in your response lies your growth and your freedom. That's how you learn to grow. That's where you grow and develop, and you experience tremendous freedom from emotional and situational pressure. You can choose your response. Sometimes that's one of the things I talk about in communication is the different approaches you can have to communication. There's different ways, because people communicate in different ways, and some situations require different forms of communication. One of those is actually to say, wait a minute, this is a very emotional kind of situation. Let's step away from it for a moment. It doesn't have to, it's not a flight. It's just step away, reassess, recollect, and come back into it again. You may not even say that. Sometimes people have said things that I just have to sit there and say, okay, Sean, before you react to this, before you say anything, and I'm just typically, I'm not, some people are very quick and sharp on their comebacks on things. So sometimes I just feel like, okay, you know what, I need time to reassess this and reevaluate what I'm going to say, because I do not want to, I want to concentrate it approach, a focused approach. I want to make sure that I've calculated how I'm going to respond to that situation rather than flying in there. Because, many times, have you been like that? You're in a situation, something is said, somebody says something or does something, and you can just feel the blood pressure rising. You can feel the blood coming up, the warmth coming up into your face, and you think, if I say something now, it's going to be bad. And I may regret it because I might not understand the situation. So let me reevaluate. So I prefer, rather than a quick comeback to show how smart I am, I rather take time out to think about what I'm going to say first. So you can not change. You cannot change how people treat you or what they say to you, but you can choose whether you react or whether you respond. You can choose. So reaction is basically stimulus and reaction. So it's immediate. It's just like, boom, you said, you did, you acted some way, bam, and I'm going to react straight away. It's spontaneous. It's stimulus, spontaneity. It's just like, boom, right out there straight away. It's normally defensive, and it's a fight back kind of situation. I'm going to defend my position and I'm going to fight back in my position. So it can be an attack, and as I say, it could be fight, it could be flight, it could be a flight away. Just I'm going to not remove, but I'm just going to shut down, and I'm going to punish you for acting that way or saying that. It's usually illogical in the sense that it's not, doesn't mean it's not justified. It may be justified, I don't know, but it's, the faster it comes, the less justification there is to maybe looking at how much you react to that. So, and generally reactions to situations in a relationship issue reveals a lot of emotional maturity, sometimes also a lot of personal insecurity or personal lack of self-esteem, self-confidence could generate a lot of protection. I've got to do this. And so you justify, you come up with your own theories on how you're going to do this. And I'm not talking about stewing on it afterwards. There's a whole journey on that one, an episode on its own. But the simple fact is how you react straight away, And it could, as I say, it doesn't necessarily mean you go into attack verbally, but you can attack emotionally. You can attack by, boom, separating, severing, cutting them off, etc., etc. So response is then stimulus, pause, and then choose response. So there comes the stimulus, a situation develops, somebody says something, but you choose to pause. And the longer you can pause without stewing on it, the longer you can take time to say, let me give a proper response to this situation. Let me weigh it up properly. And I think maybe I should talk about some of the pause and stewing a bit later. But response is calculated. So you actually work, and again, it can be very logical. The thing is, what we do is we have emotional reaction to situations, and that comes out of our often out of our, as I say, out of our lack of self-esteem, or out of our lack of self-confidence, and out of our insecurities, out of our emotional immaturity, just not being able to control our emotional situation. So bam, we throw it out there, and it's not calculated. Being able to calculate is it's a force of the will, it's a force of your mind, is that you're able to say, wait a minute, I'm going to respond properly to this situation. So it's calculated, it's determined by the will. It's, as I say, you manage your will, you decide on how, where you're going to respond to the stimulus. And it comes with understanding first. So you're always considerate of the other person. And then it's emotional maturity. It is, that sense of I can manage my emotions properly. So when you react, you're giving yourself away. Somebody said, when you respond, you stay in control of yourself. When you react, you're giving yourself away. When you respond, you stay in control of yourself. So, rather work towards having a determination of the will, rather exercise willpower, if you may, emotional management, proper management, leading yourself before you try and lead into other situations. Um, I was thinking the other day, I was just listening to some people talking, younger people talking, and I thought, I turned 60 in a month's time, and I thought, when I listened to them, I thought, the one thing, the biggest regret that you have when you're older is the things that you said and did when you were younger. And I wish I could have had the wisdom that I have now then. And one of the reasons I do what I do now is to impart some of these are just principles that I didn't know, that I've made the mistakes on. You understand? Is that the process I've had to learn. Nobody sat down with me. There were no podcast, YouTube videos, online books, audio books, things like that back when I was growing up. And I grew up in an environment where very few people were putting into me. I grew up in some unhealthy relationships, unhealthy marriage situations that was going on around me, and so you tend to get a wrong view of what these things about and leave you feeling insecure as a child and growing up, etc. But I made a decision. I'm going to change that. I'm not going to follow that trend, but it's that but still, you grow up in that environment, and so the things you say and do is just your biggest regret when you get older. I don't know about you, but oftentimes I sit down and think, oh man, going back 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, I wish I hadn't said that. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I'd been more of that. And I'm not talking about living with regrets. I'm just going, well, yeah, I regret having done that in that situation. I think about it, but I think I can change it now, and I can teach you, I can teach those that are prepared to listen and want to learn and discover, especially the young people coming up, that, this is the right key to these situations. And this is one of them, just choosing your response above your reaction. Because when you respond, you stay in control of yourself, you stay in control of the outcomes in a sense, because you're building good outcomes. You are not reacting and giving your energy away, giving yourself away, giving your breaking down yourself in the situation in that sense, because you walk away and you think, I told them, I said, I got it, I'll let them know. And the fact is, you lose. Any situation where you win, they lose, or they win, you lose, or you both lose, is a no-win. But it's when you both win. It's a win-win. Stephen Covey talks about that. Is like when you focus on how can I help that person win and me win. As soon as you become subjective to, I lose, you win, okay, whatever, kind of thing, it's a loss for both. It's never a win. So that's one of the areas that I really want you to think about, begin to implement, embody, adapt, adopt, implement into your relationship. Is think about it. Think about when you've got a situation that you can react to. Take a step back and let there be this pause to choose how you're going to respond, and then respond positively, respond with understanding, respond with emotional maturity, respond as a determination of the will to be in a win-win situation. How can I help you win, and not me being like suppressed in the thing. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. Let me know in the comments if it makes sense to you. If you enjoy this, please give me a like or give me a share on these videos. I'd love more people to get to hear about this message. If you enjoyed it, if you were inspired by it, if you learned something from it, if these Saturday videos, these episodes are helping you with Relationship Saturday, please share it with somebody and help them grow in these things, in these areas of relationship building as well. Thank you for being with Relationship Saturday podcast episode on the Leadership Boost podcast today with me, your host Sean Smith, again broadcasting all the way from Pennsylvania. Have a super weekend, and I will be talking to you soon again. during the week. All right, until next time, this is Sean saying over and out.